Hi, and welcome back. Berg Mountain Optional University is glad you returned. This latest session concerning atoms, federalism, philology, and the economy further defines the cost of war in terms of precedents set. Come along with us. Second Precedent of Liberty. From Braintree, Norfolk County, MA. President John Adams. October 30th, 1735, 1797 to 1801, July 4th, 1826. John Adams Jr. was 40 years old when
America declared its independence from Great Britain, where a transformation of the nation was so set by his precedents. He was the second President of the United States from March 4, 1797, to 1801. The only Federalist Party president elected in 1796 from Braintree, Massachusetts. Henry Adams, his great-great-grandfather, immigrated there around 1638 from Braintree, Essex in England. The parallels of loyalty to the crown and governance are uncanny but nevertheless obviously present the new nation. Incorporated in 1640, what is now Quincy was included in Braintree, and from where Adams rose against the British Parliament's Stamp Acts. As the first nationalist party in these United States, Federalists directed government after the independent leadership of Washington ended in 1789, until 1801. John Adams set precedents in the Colonial Period, pre-1775, during the Revolutionary stage, 1775 to 1790, and in early national history, 1790 to mortality, of the United States, leveling the economic playing field for patriots.
In the late colonial period pre-1775, John Adams set precedents which solidified the American moral zeitgeist. Defending the English troops of the Boston Massacre, he sided with the Crown, while seconding the Lee Resolution in the Second Continental Congress, he formally asserting the 13 united colonies as free and independent states. Believing no man ought be without counsel, Adams represented infamous soldiers' better interests, with the captain acquitted, unable to prove any orders to fire in such a situation. Arguing facts are stubborn things, considering sovereignty of the king, 6 more were acquitted, and only 2 accused. At the Second Congress, June 7 of 1776, Richard Lee, President pro tempore of the Senate, put forth the motion that states ought be independent from Great Britain, which John Adams seconded while Lee returned to Virginia. Adams nominating Washington in 1775 to be commander-in-chief of the army, and seeing either complete independence or total submission, Adams opposed the Olive Branch petition.
During the early Revolutionary period from 1775 to 1790, Adams set precedents reinforcing Washington's movement of the colonies toward independence. If anyone knows anything about war, they know it must be funded and debts incurred after victory must be paid. Washington was a warrior, and had served his purpose to secure independence, but at what cost was considered by a party of conservative nationalists who ran government, later called Federalist. The fathers of modern federalism, Johannes Althusius along with Montesquieu, saw cities as independent corporations, as with Greek polis and Federation city-states united. Hamilton saw cities to states as states were to the greater nation, where representatives collected taxes from the bounties produced in lieu of the king. In that understanding, John Adams, though not Scottish, couldn't have been ignorant of Adam Smith's 1776 publication of The Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. Covered in Chapter 11 of Moss's 2023 #Echoes of Enlightenment, Baroque literature, what's written has a way of traveling from one to another by the land and across seas. Philology being the same categorized Georges with dragon slayers, and subsequently tied President Adams with others, namely to theories presented in Adam Smith's publications. Collection and distribution of potential energy in the measurement of dollars in the U.S. Treasury was and is a monopoly the Federalists control. Hamilton's and Adams domestically handled issues economically, while within states men were still at odds. Just because the October 19 surrender of Lord Cornwallis in 1781 ensured American independence, and the Treaty of Paris was signed on September 3 of 1783, the sentiments amongst countrymen weren't magically concurrent. Previously Commissioner to France, Ambassador to the Dutch Republic, and having been America's first ambassador to Great Britain 2 years after the Treaty of Paris, sentiment was established.
John Adams set precedents in the early national history of America from 1790 until his mortality in 1826, leveling economic playing fields for patriots in the world. Though 47 days late to assume office as the first vice president from March 4 of 1789, he wouldn't be. When elected the second president, assuming office March 4, 1797, he was on time. Matthew Lyon from Vermont, first placed on trial for Sedition Act, published Lyon's Republican magazine, The Scourge of Aristocracy. As Congress passed the 4 Alien and Sedition Acts in 1798, mountainsides filled with men like Lyon who chose a hermitage while not in Congress, and free thinking did so, referring to the Federalist Party and Adams. Lyon would find criticism of presidents considered sedition, where tried, sentenced and elected to Congress while in jail. He was the first martyr of our First Amendment. Adams encouraged support of the Jay Treaty in 1794, re-establishing trade between the two an ocean apart. Though a revolutionary, framer of the Constitution as well as writer of the Massachusetts Constitution and founding father, his time in Europe and the monopoly of federalism are owed to his presidency. Domestic sentiments of the war in the aftermath were of mixed feelings, as those younger craved liberty at any cost, while those older, even Abigail, John Adams' wife and mother of John Quincy Adams, feared revolution, valuing stability. A spokeswoman for women's rights, she reminded the new nation, all men would be tyrants if they could, in a March 1776 letter to John. She continued, if particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion.
John Adams set precedents in the colonial period, pre-1775, during the revolutionary stage, 1775 to 1790, and in early national history, 1790 to mortality, of the United States, leveling the economic playing field for patriots. From representing those accused in the Boston Massacre to presiding over the Senate seconding the Lee Resolution, Adams set precedents. He continued as the primary writer of the Massachusetts Constitution and was the first and only Federalist president, setting more precedents to come.
That's all the information we have for you for this session, as we discussed Adams and the foundation of the economy in precedents. He our first vice president and second president of the United States. Next session we discuss Jefferson, our third president. Thank you for your time and consideration.